Hey guys, welcome to episode number 579. Today is Monday, so it's Update Monday, and today we're down in the basement because we are working on planting our seeds for the greenhouse. We're also going to sit and chat about the future of this channel and all of the great things I have planned for this year. I'm super excited that spring is here. There's so much to accomplish outside, but I don't want to lose track of what we can also accomplish inside. So, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you'd like to help support this channel, you can check out myaquariumbox.com and betaoasis.com. Alright guys, we've got some planting to do. We've also got a lot to chat about regarding this channel. So, this is going to be a little bit of a calmer video. We're just going to hang out and plant and chat. So come along with me and learn how to be a better aquarist. Alright guys, as you know, this is my first season out in the greenhouse growing, and as such, I don't really have much of an idea of what I'm doing. I'm not an expert at it, but hopefully this year we're going to learn together, and hopefully we get some good results. So, as I mentioned in past videos, I do have a number of different crops that I'm planning on growing in my deep water culture beds, grow beds, out in the greenhouse. So we can go over what those are real quick. We've got some cilantro here that we will be planting. We've got some lettuce, arguably one of the easiest things to grow, aquaponics. We've got rosemary. We've got basil, so plenty of herbs. We've also got some hot peppers, which I thought would be pretty fun. And then we've got two varieties of tomatoes, like the smaller cherry tomato type varieties, because those should be pretty easy to grow as well. Now, I'm not sure if I have enough rock wool for all of this, but we're going to plant and we're going to chat at the same time about this channel. So, I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're gonna get started anyways. Rock wool is a really good medium to start with for aquaponics, because essentially what you can do here is just put a little bit of water into the base of a container like this, and then the rock wool will sort of seep up that water, keep the seeds moist enough that they can germinate without allowing them to get oversaturated and to mold up. So that's what we're going to do here. We're just going to soak this a little bit with some aquarium water, and then we're just going to plant our seeds in the holes. We also have some little stakes here and a Sharpie so we can mark exactly what we plant. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 half sheets of rock wool here. So we'll see how much we can actually get planted in these containers, and we'll go from there. So I'm just going to fit basically as many as I can into these containers. We'll mark them as we go, and we'll just chat about the channel. So as I'm doing all of this, let's talk about Greg's Fish Room. I've been making videos for a very long time, and I've always talked about stuff that's been going on in my life. All of the videos that I shoot are things that I would be doing anyways. If I wasn't shooting the video, I would still be doing this stuff. So that's the most important thing to me, is basically a vlog style documenting my life, not overly produced. I am who I am, and I do what I do. And for some people, you know, maybe that's boring, but what I want to do this year is switch it up a little bit and do some new stuff. I think this greenhouse is definitely a big step forward in that regard. It's something other than fish and turtles, but it's something that people can learn from nonetheless, and it does involve ponds and goldfish and whatnot. So it is still in the same category, and I am proud of what I created last year in the greenhouse, and hopefully what I can create this year in terms of plants and planting. Now, I don't really have a green thumb, so we'll see how these do. I've probably killed more seeds than I've grown plants at this point. But I think what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do 2 rows of hot peppers. So I'm just gonna take my little hot pepper marker and put that in between my 2 rows here of rock wool. I really don't know how much water this can seep up. I guess what I'll do afterwards is just add more water to these, because it's probably just gonna keep soaking this up. But we've got our hot pepper, tequila sunrise. Plant those right now. I think the best thing to do here is to plant 2 or 3 seeds in each hole, and that will allow at least 1 to germinate. Sometimes you get duds and you don't want that, so we'll see what we can do. I think what I'm gonna do is go for two seeds in each hole. I might need to poke these down a little bit afterwards. But okay, so what am I doing with this channel? What are we doing moving forward? One thing that I've always done growing up was explore outdoors, and I don't think that this channel accurately reflects how much I love to explore outdoors. Whenever I go to the beach, I can't just sit in a beach chair and relax. I always need to have a bucket and a net, and I need to be flipping over rocks, and I need to be finding sea life in tide pools. I grew up on the coast of Maine, and that's basically what I did every day. And I also grew up in the woods of Maine, and again, that's basically what I did every day, just the freshwater version. So one thing I thought I would do this year, which is brand new, is to introduce some exploration. I got a pair of waders, hip waders, in the mail last week, and what I want to do is use those and a GoPro with sort of like a selfie stick, so I can take some nice underwater shots, and I can get in the water and I can start collecting things from the wild, collecting them just to document them. I would love to go on a trip to Peru. I would love to go collecting wild fish in exotic places like the Amazon. But I also think it's just as easy to enjoy nature a little bit closer to home. And for me, right now, that is what is most likely to happen. So I know that this spring, one thing I want to do is go explore and find frog eggs. I want to find frog spawn out in the wild and go collect it. And then I want to bring it home and I want to hatch the pollywogs. And after that, I may end up just releasing them back into the wild, but I'd like to at least give them a good head start and to document that process. And I think that would be a lot of fun. Along with that, I also want to bring my boots and my GoPro to the coast and do some more coastal exploration. There's a lot of really neat stuff you can find at low tide along the coast of Maine and the Northeast. And so I definitely want to do more of that as well. I think the next one I'm going to do here is some cilantro. So we got peppers here, then we got cilantro, then maybe we'll switch back to tomatoes. So that's the first big thing I want to do here this summer is get outside more. I want to go collecting. I want to be outdoors. I want to enjoy nature. I want to bring you guys with me. So I think that'll be a lot of fun, and I really look forward to that. It's easy enough to do, and I know quite a few people advocate it, but when it comes time to actually do it, sometimes, you know, it's hard to make the time, and I'm guilty of that myself. So I figured I'd keep myself honest, and maybe a late New Year's resolution but a resolution nonetheless is to get outside more and enjoy nature and discover things while I'm out. So this is cilantro. I think I've got enough rock wool to do 2 rows of each of these things. So these will be our cilantro. We got a lot of cilantro seeds here. So I think what I'll probably do is 3 seeds per hole in the rock wool, and we'll see how that does. So essentially what I'm going to do here with this rock wool is, again, I'm going to soak it in the bottom to make sure it's saturated with water but not swimming in water. And then what I'll do is I'll take some saran wrap and cover the top. And I believe what that will do is it will keep this environment moist enough where these seeds will be able to successfully germinate. And then once they've germinated, then I can transfer my rock wool to my net pots, which I have here. And once they've got a good root system going, I can drop those into a styrofoam raft out in the greenhouse, and those should be able to grow completely without soil. That's one of the biggest benefits to hydroponics and aquaponics, is the fact that there's no soil involved at all. So I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully out of all of these species that we're talking about, hopefully at least 1 or 2 of them actually grows, and we have something to show for it at the end of the season. That would be nice, wouldn't it? And it's all a learning process, right? This is my first time doing this, and I'm taking you guys along, so we'll see what happens. There are a ton more cilantro seeds in my little packet here. You know what I might do? I mean, I don't need a ton of cilantro plants. Maybe I'll just do 2 rows. I guess I'll probably just do 2 rows of everything and see where I'm at that point, and then maybe plant some more of something else. Okay, so we're gonna get outdoors. We're gonna go on some adventures. If you guys have any suggestions on where I should go or what I should look for in my travels, let me know. I'm in the Massachusetts Northeast area. I will be traveling to Maine quite frequently, and I know there's plenty of beautiful, interesting places around that are just waiting to be explored. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. What else are we doing on this channel? Well, obviously we're focusing a lot on this greenhouse, but I think the greenhouse plans are gonna take a little turn. I was originally planning on buying cool weather species to put in this greenhouse, and I think for this year I'm actually going to not do that. And the reason being is because of the big indoor project, which I'm happy to officially announce right now that it will be happening. We've got a big indoor project this year, coupled with our big outdoor greenhouse project this year. And the indoor project is to completely gut this entire fish room that we've built and that we've been shooting videos in for the last 5 years. I mentioned this briefly on a previous video recently, but this is confirmed now that I will be tearing down the fish room. It sounds kind of sad, but every time I have torn down a fish room and rebuilt it, I've done it better. There's always something to learn. There's always something to do better. And in this case, the new fish room is going to be laid out a little bit better. It's going to be a Zoom Ed lowboy fish room. And what do I mean by that? I mean all of the aquariums in this fish room are going to be converted over to the 50-gallon Zoom Ed lowboy tanks. I was able to speak with Zoom Ed. I was able to speak with my good buddy Tom, at the NEC show, and we talked about the Zoom Ed Lowboy tank, and he really solidified the fact that this is definitely the avenue that I want to go down. All right, what do we have here? Red cherry tomatoes. So what does that mean for everything that's in this fish room? Well, instead of buying new fish to put outside in the greenhouse, I think the only fish I'm going to be buying this year are fish to put in the pond. All of the fish that will be going in the greenhouse are most likely the fish that I already have in my fish room. And the reason being is because if I'm going to tear down this entire fish room this summer, I need a place to put all those fish. And ironically enough, the only place I have available is outdoors in the greenhouse. So within the next month or two, it's going to be warm enough out there in the greenhouse that I should be able to move all of my endlers, all of my swordtails, all of my Amica splendens, and all of my plecos and cory cats out into the greenhouse. The only thing that I'm going to leave down here for now is the 300-gallon turtle stock tank. I'm gonna have to move that away from the wall. I'll have to move it against the other wall, so that'll be a big project in of itself. But I believe I may be able to keep the 300-gallon stock tank. We'll have to see. It may end up going along with all of the 40-gallon breeder tanks. It's just gonna come down to how much space I have once the new racking system is built and how comfortable it all seems. But the reason I want to do this is because I really believe that a lot of the species that I'm interested in keeping will do best in a 50-gallon lowboy aquarium. Now don't get me wrong, I love 40-gallon breeder aquariums. They are amazing aquariums, and anyone starting out should, if you're interested in breeding, 40-gallon breeders are definitely where it's at. They're easy to find, they're relatively affordable, and they've got great dimensions. But the only tank, in my opinion, that has even better dimensions is the 50-gallon Zoom Ed Lowboy tank. A lot of people use them for fragging corals. A lot of people also use them for growing plants because it's only 10 inches tall. And that might not seem like a whole lot of height to a tank, but honestly, it's plenty high enough for most species, especially the species that I'm interested in keeping. And this is where I want to diverge from what a lot of other channels are doing, and it's something where I want to hopefully be a little bit more inspirational and maybe set a little bit of a trend on keeping more than just tropical fish in a fish room. Now, I've had the turtles forever, but they're just in one stock tank and they're very difficult to see. So I thought what I would do is switch it up with the Zoom Ed Lowboy system, and this is currently my plan. It may be sort of difficult to read this. If you want to, you can pause the video here so you can see all of the things that are written down. But essentially what I'm going to have is 3 tanks tall and 4 tanks long against a single wall. And I want to keep tropical fish in the top row. I want to keep small aquatic turtles in the middle row. And then on the bottom row, I want to keep mostly aquatic newts. I think that would be an awesome variety of aquatic species, and I don't want to go overboard. I don't want to get 50 aquariums dedicated to breeding just angelfish. I don't want to get 50 aquariums dedicated to just breeding axolotls. I want a little bit of everything, and you know, I certainly want to focus on the breeding, but I don't necessarily think I need to be focused on breeding as many of one species as I possibly can. There's so much out there to try out, and I just want to tackle a little bit of everything. So that's currently my thought process there. And in terms of the species that I'm currently considering, and this plan may change, I've got the top row of fish. Now, I'm really into wild type fish. I'm not a huge fan of fish that have been overbred for coloration or whatever. That's fine, a lot of people are. I feel like there are enough fish in this world that are endangered or rare and naturally beautiful that I might as well focus on those and just keep wild type fish. So in the top row, what I want to accomplish is having a colony of anglers in one tank, a colony of swordtails, a colony of mollies, and a colony of godiids, probably Amica splendens. Those are all live bearing fish, and they're all wild type fish as well, or at least the species, the types that I want to get and keep are wild type, and I have a lot of these already, so that's an easy thing to accomplish. I have them up at the top because I want them to be as warm as possible, and then I've got turtles on the middle row and then newts on the bottom row because newts can stay a little bit cooler. Now, if I do keep the stock tank, I may not go crazy and get a whole bunch of turtles, but I do like a variety of turtles, and I do want to keep a variety of very small and manageable turtles. Turtles where I can get maybe like a breeding pair or 2 breeding pairs, something like that. Not a whole lot, you know, just enough to fit in a 50-gallon lowboy aquarium, and have those, grow them up to an adult age, and focus on the collection and the breeding of the eggs. It's one of the things that attracted me to turtles in the first place is hatching turtle eggs, and it isn't something that I've managed to accomplish yet down here in the fish room. So I do want to focus on that, and I do want to try a variety of species. I have southern black knob map turtles already. Some people call them the Delta Colas. They've got the black coloration on the bottom of the shell. I also want to try some razorback musk turtles, which stay pretty small, some Reeves turtles, and some 3-striped mud turtles. All of these are a little less common in the turtle world, and all of them stay relatively small when you compare it to something like a red-eared slider. So realistically, I could keep 2 or 3 or 4 turtles in each 50-gallon lowboy tank, and I think they would do pretty well. I haven't quite worked out how I want to make a basking platform and a breeding box in each one of those tanks, but getting back to the footprint, the reason I love the lowboy tanks is because of the footprint. You've got a tank that's 2 feet deep, 4 feet wide, and only 10 inches tall. So you've got a lot of surface area, sort of like this tray. It's not very deep, but you've got a lot of surface area. And I think one thing that we forget about a lot when we, keep animals is the fact that animals inherently, they don't like running into each other a whole lot. I learned this the hard way with a 125-gallon turtle tank, that the turtles just went back and forth all day long, running into each other. And when you have a lot of turtles in a small confined space and they're just running into each other all day, they don't tend to get along that well. And I think the same thing can be said for even species that do get along. Having space, having the ability to have line of sight and be able to hide from each other, whether it's a fish or a newt or a, you know, turtle or whatever, I feel like it's really important. I feel like it's even more important than the number of inches of water height in an aquarium. And for that reason, I feel like I can get some really good breeding colonies of fish and newts and turtles in a relatively small amount of water, only 50 gallons. So that's sort of my thought process behind the lowboy tanks. We're planting rosemary now. And these are the things that sort of get me excited about this hobby, being able to try new things, see how they work, and hopefully inspire other people to do similar things. So I'm really hoping that these lowboy tanks work out. If you live in the Boston/Massachusetts area and are interested in purchasing my 40-gallon breeder aquarium rack system, I'm pretty close to being ready to tear it down. So if you're interested and you want to set up a fish room basically overnight, let me know, contact me, because I'm looking to move it out and move on to the next thing, which is, it's a big deal. You know, this fish room has basically operated flawlessly for 5 years. I've been here for 5 years and I've never had a spill. I've never had water on the floor. Everything has worked out basically flawlessly, which isn't an easy feat. I mean, anyone that's kept aquariums knows that, you know, eventually you run into problems. You forget and you leave the water on, or you're filling a bucket and it overflows, or you have a tank and it splits a seam and you've got water all over the floor, and on and on and on. A lot of these types of things tend to happen with people that have used aquariums, that have old aquariums, that have aquariums on floors that are a little bouncy. You know, if you have a setup and it's not 100% level, all of these things sort of go into these sort of horror stories and disasters you hear. And sometimes it's completely outside of your control. Sometimes it's just like a really bad silicone job on an aquarium that came straight from a factory and you're screwed. And luckily, I haven't had that happen. Luckily, I drilled all 8 aquariums down here, my 40-gallon breeders, and I didn't have any problems. And they've been working flawlessly for 5 years. So I hope I can say the same thing of the lowboy tanks once I have those set up. But I'm going to set those up in a very similar manner. I'm just going to put them all against the wall on one very long racking system. And right now I've got 40-gallon breeder tanks, but I only have 2 tall. With the lowboy tanks, I'm going to be able to get 3 tall, which I think will really help out in terms of the number of species I can keep, but also in, you know, how compact I can get my water volume down here in the basement. And if I can keep everything on one wall, I think I can keep it a lot more manageable. And I'm really looking forward to making that system a lot more efficient than the one that I currently have. So that is our first tray of seeds done. We're going to move it out of the way and we will move on to our next tray of seeds, and we'll see what that looks like here as well. So that's sort of the big news. That's sort of the direction of the channel and where things are headed. I'm excited. I'm also a little scared. Hopefully everything does end up working out. If anyone can figure it out, I'm pretty confident I can do it. So that's sort of the direction things are headed for the moment. And we'll adapt and we'll change as we go. So these trays are a little different dimensions, so I'm just gonna tuck these in where I can, and we'll spread some more water on the top so we can get it at least a little wet here before we throw some seeds in. Alright, and we're back. I had to get some more water for our seed trays. So, as I was saying, I didn't complete my little story here. With this Zoomed Lowboy rack, I've got the fish up top that we just talked about. I've got my black knob map turtles, razorback musk turtles, Reeves turtles, and 3 striped mud turtles. All of those stay really small, as I said. And then on the bottom row, which I teased but I never really talked about, we've got newts, and these are mostly aquatic newts. However, they're probably going to need some land areas as well, because they do like to haul out, and some of them even like to stay out of the water for long periods of time as they're growing up. So the first one I want to do is the Iberian ribbed newt. I learned about this last year at the NEC from Jason from San Francisco Bay. He is really into newts and all kinds of aquatic life, and when I was giving away all of my axolotls last year, that's when he told me about the Iberian ribbed newt. It's a pretty interesting newt. It gets fairly large, and they do get along with each other, which is nice. So I can get quite a few of them in a 50-gallon lowboy tank, and they'll get along, and they look cool. They're basically completely aquatic, and the nice thing about them is they've got better eyesight than an axolotl, and they will hunt for like salmon pellets, like sinking salmon pellets. Okay, so we've got tomatoes. These are the yellow tomatoes. I think what I'll do here is two more rows of these. So the Iberian ribbed newt is the first one on the list, and these I think are going to be a little bit harder to collect. There are some easier species and there are some harder species to find here, but all in all, this is going to be a little bit of a task to collect all of these species over the next year or so. So the Iberian ribbed newt, I'll probably go with the wild type. And then the next one is really easy to find in the hobby. It's the fire-bellied newt. I believe these originally came from China. They're all over the place. They don't get super big, and they do have a nice red pattern on their belly. I believe they're actually slightly toxic, so anytime you handle something like that, you really do need to immediately wash your hands. I don't really plan on handling them, but it is good to know. So fire-bellied newts. The next one is pretty cool. It's called an Italian alpine newt. Don't know a whole lot about those yet, but I'm looking to do more research on those. They seem like they're a little bit more difficult to find. And then the eastern newt, which is pretty readily available in the United States. They're all over the place, and I believe those are the ones that have a terrestrial phase as they're growing up. So that one may need a larger land area, but we'll see. And again, this is all just preliminary planning. I could change my mind if I find something that I like better. I could go with that, but this is basically phase one. This is what I'm thinking, and I think that's a good variety of species, and really looking forward to finding those and getting them into my tanks and working on breeding those as we go into 2020. So that is the initial plan for the species lineup in the Zoomed Lowboy Fishroom. And it's gonna be a lot of work to get there, but I think it's definitely doable, and I'm really looking forward to tackling that this year. Alright, so what am I gonna change in the fish room if I'm going through this whole process of tearing everything apart, rebuilding it? It's going to be a costly endeavor, and so I want to make sure that when I build it, rebuild it, I've changed some things to make them better. So let's talk about what some of those things are. First off, the system I have now is it's redundant in a way, because I have filtration barrels, central filtration barrels for my fish system, and then I've got central filtration barrels for my turtle tank, my stock tank. So when I have one rack of aquariums, I will essentially only have one filtration system. I'm also looking at potentially getting away with not heating the water in my aquariums. We'll have to see how realistic that is, especially with some of the tropical species. But I know, especially with the newts, that they can tolerate lower temperatures, and that may be some additional electric that I can cut from the fish room, is by focusing on maybe some cooler water fish and some cooler water species with the newts. So that certainly is an idea as well. Another thing that I want to do is decrease the size of my central filtration barrels. Right now I have 55-gallon barrels, which are sitting only about half full of water right now, and it takes up a lot of space. They're really big, and I have a lot of them. I think I've got 5 of them in total in the basement. I want to shrink those down. I want to make them 30-gallon barrels, and I want to have a total of 4 of them for everything, which I think would allow me to have a barrel dedicated to just like mechanical filtration, like Metallamats and sponge filter, sponge mats, and then a biological barrel, which would have my fluidized K1 micro moving bed media, and I don't know what else. I mean, obviously one is going to be my wastewater sump barrel, which I currently have, and then I have an extra barrel to either add more biologic media or more mechanical media, and I think that'll work out really well. So I'm looking forward to that. The other thing I want to do is focus on only one wall of the fish room. I want everything to sort of be built around that one wall. I want everything pushed against that one wall, and I want one large drain line which feeds the drains from all of the aquariums, all sloping down that one wall to my central sump system. I think that will simplify everything. It will simplify the return line for my return pump. It will simplify the drain lines going back to the filter barrels, and it'll also simplify the air line and my air system up above the tanks as well. All in all, I think it means less stuff in a smaller footprint, but with actually the same amount of total water overall in the fish room. And I believe that even includes if I get rid of the 300-gallon stock tank. So we'll have to see about that. I'm not 100% sold about getting rid of the 300-gallon stock tank down here. Now we're planting basil. And the reason I'm not 100% convinced about doing that yet is because since I got that stock tank down here in the fish room, I put a new bulkhead on the basement, and it's a slightly smaller bulkhead than was here currently, which means I'm not 100% confident I can get the 300-gallon Rubbermaid stock tank out of the basement in one piece. So what does that mean? It means I either leave it in the basement set up, or I remove it by force. And that would probably involve a Sawzall if I can't squeeze it through the bulkhead in one piece. I may need to chop it up, which I think would be a real tragedy, considering I won't be able to get one down. I'll never be able to get another one down here. So the one that's down here is the only one that's ever going to be down here. So either we keep it or we get rid of it, move it outside, whatever. But that's sort of a big decision point, and I'm not 100% convinced that I want to give it up down here in the basement. But let me know your thoughts. It is a lot of work to keep that thing clean. It is a lot of water vapor that gets evaporated into the air, and it is a lot of electricity that I end up spending on a dehumidifier, which basically runs in this basement 24 hours a day in order to make sure I don't get humid air and mold problems down here, because that's the death of any fish room, is mold problems. You do not want that. So that just means you have to tear everything down. So that's sort of what I'm dealing with at the moment, and those are sort of the thoughts that I have in my head. And I like everything to sort of line up. I like everything to sort of make sense. I like a plan. I always like a plan. And in my mind, I've been wanting to redo the fish room for a while now. I think there's a number of things I can do better, like we've talked about. And I think this is the right moment. I think this is the right opportunity. And it's great that I do have the outdoor space to move all of these fish out. And hopefully they'll make it. And hopefully they all reproduce like crazy out there, because it will be warmer and more tropical in a greenhouse than it will be in this basement throughout the summer months. So I've got that going for me. Plus, I've never kept tropical fish outdoors, so that should be good. That should be cool. All right, what are we gonna do here? We've got lettuce left. This is the only one we haven't opened up yet. However, I think I want to do one tray completely devoted to lettuce. So what else do we want to plant? I don't know that more herbs are really going to do anything meaningful for me, because you know, you can only eat so many herbs. So I might as well go with some more tomato seeds. I just plant more tomatoes here just to finish off this tray. So I definitely want your feedback. This is red cherry tomatoes. I want your feedback on what you think of my plans for the upcoming year with the outdoor exploration, with all of the greenhouse plans here, planting stuff, moving all of my tropical fish outdoors, and then the plans of completely tearing apart the fish room. It's tough, but it's also exciting at the same time. It's going to cost a lot of money, it's going to take a lot of time, but I think in the end it will be worthwhile, and it will be something that I can be proud of, something that no one else has really done, and maybe it will inspire other people to do something similar, learn from what I'm doing, and hopefully even make it better than what I've done. mean, that's always what I try to do when I research online. I find out what other people have done, and then I try to do it a little bit better. So if anyone can do that after watching my videos this summer, that would make me happy. In terms of the pond outdoors, the 1,000 gallon pond, I was able to clean that up in the last week or so, and all of the fish appear to be alive, happy and healthy. I just need to do a very giant water change on that tank to clear some of the algae out. I may need to install a diatomaceous earth filter on that system as well, just to clear the algae up and keep it cleared up. And then we should be good to get more goldfish out there. This is tomato, yellow tomatoes, yellow pear tomatoes. I like tomatoes. I like lettuce as well, and those are basically the easiest species of plants to keep without soil. So got that going for me. The easier the better at this point, right? The less I can mess up, the better. So in terms of goldfish, I was talking to a few fine folks at the NEC. New York Gold was one of them. D from Brooklyn was another one. We were just hanging out after hours, chatting about goldfish. There's a lot for me to learn about goldfish. There's a whole bunch of aquarium hobbyists that are just dedicated to goldfish, which I think is super awesome. I don't know that I'll ever be, you know, a 100% goldfish fanatic, but there are plenty of people out there that I know I can learn from with goldfish keeping. And even though I don't plan on keeping them indoors in my aquariums, and I plan on just keeping them outdoors in the pond year round, there's a lot of really beautiful varieties of goldfish out there. It's got a really long, rich history, and the goldfish specifically that interest me are the ones that have a more streamlined body shape, the ones that look more natural, and the ones that look like they would be able to outswim competitors, outswim anything trying to eat them, I should say. And I have a lot of raccoons in the area. We have great blue herons. We've got lots of stuff that would love to snack on some fish. So I want to protect the fish by selecting the fish that I know can protect themselves. Kind of an interesting theory, right? So I want fish that are able to swim fast. I want fish that aren't distorted or bloated. You know, there are a lot of varieties of fish that just have like really irregular and unnatural body patterns, and I want to avoid those. So I think one of the goldfish types that I'm leaning towards is the Shabunkin. It's a really nice calico patterned fish. It's sort of got a long, narrow body, kind of like a koi, and less like fancy goldfish. And they grow pretty large, they swim pretty fast, and I think they should do really well outdoors all year throughout the winter. So that was my first pick, is the Shabunkin. I think those will probably do the best out of anything to go in that 1,000-gallon pond outside. And then there's a few other types of goldfish that I don't know as much about, that seem like they're a little bit harder to find. One of those is the Wakin goldfish, W-A-K-I-N. Again, it has sort of a streamlined body shape like a Shabunkin, but then it has sort of like a split butterfly tail, which looks really beautiful when it's swimming through the water and when viewed from above, because it's one fish but it looks like it has two tails, but it still retains that fast swimming body shape, so it can sort of swim away and protect itself. I believe those come in like orange and white varieties. Again, they're more difficult to find, so we'll have to see. Another one I believe is called the Ikson goldfish. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but it seems like it's even harder to find, so we'll have to see what we can actually find. And we may start with just the easiest and hardiest one being the Shibunkin, and maybe go from there. So I haven't really decided. If you guys know of anyone that's breeding any goldfish, looking to get rid of some goldfish, if you have any online sources or breeders that you know of that I should look at for goldfish, definitely let me know, because I am planning on placing an order here sometime in the near future to fill up that 1,000 gallon pond outdoors, so that I can get plenty of fish poop going, because we're going to be feeding these plants aquaponics style all spring, summer, and fall. And those goldfish are going to be the ones that produce the majority of that waste. These are the lettuce seeds, by the way, the last ones I have here to plant, and they're proving a little bit more difficult to get into these rock wool holes. I'm really making a mess of this stuff, but as long as I get a couple seeds in each one of those rock wool holes, I should be fine. And there's a lot of them in here, so I'm not super worried about it. So again, the plan here with these seeds is to get the rest of these planted, to get enough water in the bottoms of these trays that the whole thing is wet, but not like completely saturated and floating in water. And then I'll throw shrink wrap over the top, let them set indoors for a couple days. Hopefully they will germinate and sprout. Then it's getting warm enough outside that I should be able to move them outdoors within the next week or so. And then we'll see if we can actually get them growing in the aquaponics rafts. If not, I'll be looking for a plan B. So if you're growing any aquaponics vegetables already and you live in the Massachusetts area, shoot me a message, because I might need to borrow some of your plants if things go south here and none of this ends up growing, because I don't want to miss out on the growing season this year. I've got the full growing season ahead of me, so I'm really hoping this works out and that I can actually get something to grow here. But if not, I do want to borrow some plants from someone, so let me know. It's not as easy as just going down to the store and buying like a potted tomato plant or something, because those roots aren't accustomed to being soaked with water, and so they wouldn't survive. It's a different type of root from what I understand. The ones that can survive in sort of the underwater space. So anyways, I can't just go and wash off a potted plant and stick it in water and hope for it to survive. But I've got a lot of other plants, house plants and other things I want to move outside, pothos plants, spider plants. I've got other things that I want to plant like zucchini and stuff, but I'll need to use soil for some of that, but we'll see. It's all new. It's an all new adventure out there in the greenhouse, and I got plenty of space to play this year in that greenhouse. So we've got our tray of lettuce here. Plenty of extra seeds that are wasted on the top. My bad. But anyways, guys, that's gonna conclude the planting portion of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the talk. I hope you enjoyed watching me plant all of these seeds, and hopefully it leads to something great. Alright guys, and that's gonna do it for this week's video. We had some fun planting some seeds. We had some fun talking about the future of this channel and this fish room. I've got a lot to accomplish this year, and it's all really big and really exciting stuff. So here's where I need your help once again. If you've got any secret locations in the Northeast area that you think I should visit to explore with my GoPro and my waders in the water and find some really cool stuff, let me know about it. Also, if you have any ideas on fish and turtles and newts that you think I should definitely keep in my Zoomed Lowboy fish room, let me know, because I'm not 100% sold on everything on my list. And if you have a something that I should consider, I will consider it, because I want a good cross-section of fish and amphibians and reptiles in that system. So if you're breeding something, or if you really like a species that wasn't on my list, let me know. If you live in the Massachusetts area and you're looking to set up your own fish room and you want to buy my 40-gallon breeder aquarium rack system, get in contact with me, again, because I'm looking to tear down the whole thing and sell it all at once. So that would be super helpful there as well. And one last thing, if you're growing anything aquaponics style in the New England area, Massachusetts area, and all of my seeds fail, let me know, because I may need to borrow some plants to at least have something growing this year in the greenhouse. I'm not confident yet at my ability to grow things, germinate things. We'll have to see how I do this year. But anyways, guys, that's the video for this week. Hopefully next week it will be bright and sunny outside. We can plant all of these things out in the greenhouse. We can get our floating rafts built, and we can get some of these things germinated and growing outdoors. Until then, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you like this content, and also if you want to help support this channel, you can always go check out myaquariumbox.com and betaoasis.com. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.